Moshpit Passion, for the passion of the music.
Herzlich willkommen hier bei Moshpit Passion auf YouTube. Ich bin der Kai und ich begrüße euch recht herzlich zu dieser neuen Rubrik, wo wir Musiker vorstellen, die ein eigenes Business haben, und darüber werden wir so ein bisschen sprechen, über Musik, über die Musikszene, und ich hoffe, das gefällt euch hier. Und unser erster Gast ist Acey Slade, den vielleicht den ein oder andere kennen von Misfits oder auch hier Dope als ein Beispiel. Und Acey, nice to have you here in our show. You are actually the first guest in our new category here on Moshpit Passion. And I'm following you since, I don't know, a couple of years actually on Instagram. And I saw it was in 2020 that you founded with your wife a coffee company, right? Which called Catfight Coffee.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, it's almost 2 years now. Yeah, it's crazy.
And my first question to this is, when came you up with the idea to run an own business? Not the coffee business, but actually like, hey, I'm now at a point I don't want to be an employee, something like that. I don't want to be only working in the music industry. I want to become my own boss with my wife. When was for you the first time you got this feeling or idea at least?
Well, I guess my parents were entrepreneurs, and they always ran their own businesses. And my grandfather, he had his own businesses. And so I come from a family of people that were entrepreneurs and always worked for themselves. So I think it came from that. Probably part of it, this is a good question because I've never really thought about this before, but I think part of it came when, the music industry started to bottom out, between 2004 and I don't know, it keeps going down. So I don't know when that bottom's going to be reached, but to be honest with you, doing things like I did a pledge campaign for a record, and I did all the shipping myself. I did everything all by myself. And I mean, I've always kind of done little things here and there on my own, but that was probably the first time where I was like, well, hey, if I can make things, and sorry about that.
No problem.
I can make things and I can ship them and sell them. Bands I've been in, I've always been into screen printing my own t-shirts and stuff like that. So it's just kind of always been in my DNA. It's part of what drew me to a bit more to the punk scene than the metal scene, in a way where the punk scene was a bit more DIY. Mm-hmm. But now that hustle is in the metal world too. So yeah, I guess I've just always been drawn to doing my own thing, really.
Okay. Also Acey sagte uns gerade hier, also dieses was selber kreieren, was selber schaffen, ist eigentlich schon, liegt bei ihm in der DNA, weil seine Familie schon immer irgendwie verschiedene Sachen alleine auf die Beine gestellt hat, was ihn dann noch persönlich inspiriert hatte. Ein ausschlaggebender Punkt war bei ihm, dass er eine Crowdfunding-Kampagne aufgesetzt hatte und dort alles selber machen musste, selber versenden, bis er auf die Idee kam, okay, mit dem Musikbusiness seit 2004 geht es immer weiter bergab. Was kann ich machen, was mich interessiert? Und das ist halt eine Sache, oder besser gesagt war eine Sache, was halt bei ihm schon mehr oder weniger in den Genen lag. And so, Acey, why did you specialize in coffee? What is coffee for you that you say, hey, I want to spend my life, my money, my time, my spare time, because to run an own business, a business is always like you have to give 100% into it?
Two things. Number one, you can never digitally download a cup of coffee.
That's a good point.
And I guess actually there's three things. Number two, it's a product that if people enjoy it, they use it and they have to buy it again. So unlike a record or a CD, even when people were buying physical components, they only had to buy it once. In theory, that's a big that's a whole other conversation about how people how record companies kept changing formats from vinyl to cassette to mini disc to CDs. It's no wonder that people wanted music for free. AC/DC's Back in Black, for example, how many times did you have to buy that? You bought it on vinyl, you bought it on mini disc, you bought it on CD. I don't want to buy it another time. You know what I mean? but that's a whole other conversation. But and also I just love coffee. It's something I'm very passionate about. It's something I love. I love everything about it, from the fact that, you know, as a fruit, it's technically a fruit. You know, the cherries all grow at different times, so they have to be hand picked. Every coffee bean has to be hand picked. There's no machines that, it's not like corn or wheat where a machine can just reap the harvest. It has to be hand picked. It has to be done by farmers. You know, it's not something that can be grown in a lab. So I love that it comes back to that DIY thing, that thing of like, somebody has to nurture it and love it to make it good. And I love that about it. I love the way that it tastes. I love the fact that you can do a lot of different things with it to make it taste differently. I felt like there was also a void in the market where it was like, there's companies that do some really clever branding and very clever marketing with coffee, but it's really shitty, poor quality coffee. And the companies that have the really, really good coffee, they've got really bad attitudes, like the whole hipster barista thing. Yeah. They have terrible taste in music. So why can't I marry the two? And so that's it in a nutshell.
Also für unsere Zuschauer draußen, was er sagte, es gibt 3 Dinge, was ihn dazu animiert hatte, sich speziell auf Kaffee zu spezialisieren. Das erste ist, man kann halt Kaffee nicht runterladen, wie bei Musik. Das zweite ist auch, Kaffee, das lieben so viele Leute, das ist genauso wie bei Musik natürlich auch, aber man holt sich natürlich nur eine CD, ein Album, er hat es mit AC/DC erklärt, und dann ist auch gut. Ne? Es macht keinen Sinn, dass sich jemand 2, 3, 4 CDs holt oder 3, 4 Platten. Es ist halt kein Nutzprodukt wie Kaffee. Und das letzte ist natürlich ganz einfach, er liebt Kaffee. Und was er hinten raus noch sagte, ist die Spezialisierung. Es gibt halt sehr, sehr viele Kaffeesorten, die mehr oder weniger ein Hipster-Trend sind, wo halt viele nicht wirklich dabei sind und das auch nicht wirklich schmeckt. Und seiner Meinung nach war das unter anderem auch eine kleine Marktlücke, worauf er sich spezialisiert hat. What I can hear from your words is you are very passionate about it, and it's also our name, Moshpit Passion, because if you do things, you have to do, or at least your drive is, or one driving point is passion. Because if you do it like, yeah, I don't know, I do this because I like it, but I'm not into it, after a couple of months or years, it's not the right thing. And what I can hear from your words is you're definitely in, you give good statement points. And what I really like, the connection of music. We talked before this interview a little bit, and what I can hear also, and also what you say about the year 2004 when it goes down, that you were closely thinking about, okay, what can I do? But also where is the need, and what people need, not like one time, like a record, you buy it and you put it in your shelf, that the people love, need, and buy more. They're coming back. And something like a product like coffee, what I like about coffee, you can drink it in the morning, because a lot of people drinking coffee to wake up, and it's like a ritual, for instance, for some people. And that's a good, definitely interesting point that you go into this field. And I want to know, where is your factory? Like you said, when it comes to the cherry beans, where do you roast them? Where do you get these beans for your products?
And it's funny because you to backtrack on something you said really quickly, you know, you're right. But it's very similar to that ritual that we all go through when we buy a physical component of a record, right? You know, like we open it up, we check it out. Like, I know this is going to sound crazy, but when I was a kid, certain cassettes of music, the clear ones smelled like grape to me. I don't know why. And I would like always check it out. Like when I would buy the cassette, like, oh yeah, like I think it was the Warner Brothers ones, the clear ones, they smelled like grape. Like, yeah, that's it. You'd open it up and you'd look at it and you put it on, and why there's a ritual to music that to me is very similar to coffee, you know? So maybe that was a connection that I never made before, is that there's that ritual of putting the record on, listening to it. Yeah, that's the same with me for coffee. I never thought of that way before. But our coffee beans we get from all over the world. You know, we get coffees we have a importer that imports green coffee beans, and they have different samples of coffee. And, you know, it's kind of like bands in a way where it's like, we know how we want our coffee to taste in a very certain way, you know, like our coffee drinkers don't really like light roasts. They want like a medium to a medium dark roast. And there's certain beans that just like certain beans have a real like lemony brightness to them. That's not what our customers really want. It's not what I like either. So, you know, we tell this to our distributor, they get us the green beans, and we roast we roast the beans here in Newark, New Jersey. And we try to roast just twice. You know, we don't like anything staying on the shelf for more than 2 weeks, which fortunately or unfortunately, coffee doesn't expire or go rotten. It just goes stale. So almost like cigarettes or seeds or something like that. It never goes bad, but it just tastes worse the older it gets. So really you have a 3-month window with coffee before it starts to degrade in taste. But we like to keep it for 2 weeks, man. Like that's always our goal, is 2 weeks to a month. Like we don't like to keep it around longer than that.
Was Acey ja gerade sagte zum Thema, wo die Bohnen produziert werden, sagte er noch davor. Vielleicht war auch einer seiner Gründe, warum er sich auf Kaffee spezialisiert hat, dass es da Gemeinsamkeiten beim Thema Platten gibt. Also ein Beispiel sagte er, ne, also es ist der Geruch der Platten. Wir haben die Platten hier, legen diese auf, schauen uns das an. Genauso eine ähnliche Verbindung gibt es auch beim Kaffee, weil es nun mal da auch eine Art Ritual ist, wie man Musik hört, wo man Musik hört. Genauso wie beim Thema Kaffee, dass man halt das in der Regel morgens trinkt oder zum Kaffee oder zum Kuchen, besser gesagt. Und auf den Punkt angesprochen, wo das Ganze produziert wird, sagte er, in New York, New Jersey gibt es eine Rösterei, wo es einen Einkäufer gibt, der holt sich die ganzen Bohnen in der Welt alle zusammen, und je nachdem, was er haben möchte oder was auch seine Kunden haben wollen, gibt es dann dementsprechend das jeweilige Produkt. Und da werden wir jetzt genau besser gesagt, genau dort werden wir jetzt nachfragen. So, Acey, you mentioned before about different beans, and I want to know which different products do you offer?
So we have whole bean, we have ground coffee, and then we also have K-cups as well. And along with that, we have a lot of merchandise, and we like to cultivate community. Like you said, it's all about community. And so every Sunday we do a live stream where we do all kinds of fun stuff. So that's really the core to it. We also do a Spotify playlist that we have one of our customers pick every week, a playlist of their choice. And to us, it's as much about community as it is the product itself.
Er sagte uns gerade halt, also auf die Frage, welche Sachen die produzieren. Es ist nicht nur halt der Kaffee, sondern der Überbegriff ist halt, man versucht eine Community zu gründen. Das geht zum einen aus dem Kaffee, aber auch Merchandise, was angeboten wird, sowie der Kontakt halt zu den Fans, zu der Community, und das Ganze kann man wohl als komplettes Produkt beschreiben und macht es auch irgendwie einzigartig. So what I found interesting is the concept of different, let me say, points. It's not just coffee, you have also merchandise, you're also some kind of entertainment, what you're doing with the live stream, talking about the coffee, the products, or I saw it was last Sunday that you were talking about that you love sweets, for instance, and you were eating a buttercup. It's also very interesting. So I guess because you played in many bands, that there are fans and they get some kind of insight what their star, let me say, is doing. It's also very interesting to get a connection to the base, to the customers. And my next question would be, what are, let me say, the plans when this whole COVID is finally over? For instance, if I'm thinking about heavy music, I'm thinking about coffee. Here in Europe, we have major festivals, and would it not be a good point, like you have some kind of merch booth of Catfight Coffee on a festival, because a lot of people are hangover and it's 1 p.m. then usually the first band starts and you can say, hey, you are hangover, I got the right coffee for you. Is some kind of promotion planned or something like that?
Oh, that's, I mean, you're talking to, that's my goal. You know what I mean? I would love to have a presence at music events. I mean, part of it too is that our community, the metal and punk and hard rock community, we're becoming a little more health conscious too. You know, so it used to be, you know, you would go to a festival and get completely annihilated and shit faced, and that's cool. That's one thing. But then there's some people that aren't as into that anymore. And so what I'd love to have is have like some sort of a not just a booth, but a little, you know how sometimes they'll have little villages, they'll call them, you know, a little village where there's an actual coffee shop where people can kind of get away from the madness for a couple of hours, or slowly start their day with some coffee and chilling out and then fucking dive into the madness, you know? Or recharge the batteries for the madness, depending on how you look at it, you know?
Definitely, because what you say, in Belgium, there is a festival called Graspop Metal Meeting. And there's also what you say, a specific village where people can hang out, and there's a metal market. But when I was there, I was like, something here is missing, because I don't drink alcohol or something like that, but I'm also tired in the morning, or somehow not hangover, but also tired of the day, of the sun, of the bands, the music, because it's a heavy input. There was something like to calm down and need something which is loading my batteries again. And that would be great to see you one day on festivals or rock concerts. And what I want to talk about is what you say about the healthy lifestyle. It's interesting because what I saw during the last decade, actually, that metal musicians or punk rockers like Doll, for instance, they are vegan, and they are speaking about it, and it's coming more and more. For instance, one of the German, let me say, biggest bands is Crater. I don't know if you know them, and also their front singer is also vegan, and also they're posting about what they are eating and drinking, actually, and it's very interesting. And do you know for one point why this, let me say, I don't want to say it's a wave, but this lifestyle changing way now, where does it come from?
You know, that's a great question. You know, I don't know if it's just that people are becoming more enlightened. I mean, when you say enlightened in a way, that might sound a little bit like you're looking down on people. So that, I don't know if that when you say that you're enlightened, that means that other people aren't. So maybe that's not the right word. But I just think that I think it's a few things. I think it's that there's a consciousness, maybe that's the better word, and a responsibility that people feel. I think that a lot of us have seen the negative aspects of unhealthy living to some people, you know. I guess for myself, you know, it's like I'm very lucky that I play in a lot of bands, and I feel a responsibility to people who come to the show to always look my best and play my best and give my best. I remember seeing a band in the early 2000s, and it was like these 80s bands, right? And the one band, the guys were all overweight. They played the songs okay. They were having an okay time, and it kind of made me feel old. You know what I mean? And then the other band, they all were in shape, and they were all taking care of themselves, and they were running around, and they were acting crazy, and it made me feel young again, you know? So at least for myself, that's part of it. You know, I don't drink, I don't use drugs. I had a great time when I did drink, and I had a great time when I did do drugs, and then I didn't, and it became no more fun, you know? And I know that I have a platform. So I guess to answer your question is that when people are finding things that they really love about healthier living, and they want to share it with their fans, they want to share it with people, hopefully nobody, I rarely talk about my sobriety very much because I don't want to sound like a preacher. I don't want to sound like I'm preaching to anyone, because there's people that are having a great fucking time, and that's awesome too. So I don't know. I don't know if that really answers the question, but it's a good point though, and I think it's really cool that people are celebrating diversity within metal and punk these days.
Ich habe ihn als erstes nochmal zuvor gefragt, ob es nicht eine Möglichkeit wäre, bei so einem Produkt wie Kaffee, ob sich das nicht anbietet, zum Beispiel auf einem Festival hier irgendwo in Europa, ja, einen eigenen Stand zu haben, das den Leuten anzubieten, die dann irgendwie komplett vom Vortag noch verkatert sind, rumtorkeln, zu sagen, hier, nimm noch einen Schluck Kaffee, damit deine Batterien wieder geladen werden. Er sagte, ja, das ist eine sehr, sehr gute Idee und das wäre sein ultimativer Traum eines Tages in der Art, es gibt ja diese abgetrennten Zonen, da diese, sag ich mal, Metal Towns oder Metal Village, dass man dort vielleicht einen Stand platziert, so etwas dann zu machen, wo die Leute hingehen können und, sage ich mal, bevor der Festivaltag startet, dort sich einen Kaffee zu holen. Genau, und das Zweite, was ich daraus resultiert hatte, war ein sogenannter gesunder Lebensstil, weil viele achten ja darauf, was sie trinken, wo sie trinken. Viele trinken zum Beispiel dann keinen Alkohol und greifen dann halt irgendwie zu Kaffee, um dann ein bisschen aufgeweckter zu sein am Morgen. Und darauf kam er zu sprechen, ob Ihnen das auch aufgefallen ist, dass in den letzten 10 Jahren, sage ich mal, viele Bands und Künstler, wie zum Beispiel Creator oder Doyle, einen gesunden Lebensstil eingeschlagen haben, darüber auch sprechen und ob er eine Ahnung hat, woher das kommt. Er sagte dazu, vielleicht liegt es halt unter anderem daran, dass die Bands irgendwann an einem Punkt waren oder selber gemerkt haben, ja, okay, wir können hier so nicht weitermachen, es muss sich etwas ändern, weil das Ganze wirkt sich auf unsere Musik, auf unsere Gesundheit und Karriere. And so I want to get back to the products. And do you have maybe some kind of new product in mind which is specialized in, I don't know, for people with diabetic, for instance, or especially for vegans, a special product like that or anything?
Not so much as far as specializing with that. Coffee in general is really good for lowering blood pressure. Oh, we got a cat here. In general, there's a lot of really good healthy properties in coffee as it is. And it is, at least our coffee is all vegan. Most of it's kosher. Most of it's organic. So again, back to what we discussed before, that's one of the things that I really love about it, is that it's such a natural product in and of itself. Adding, the only additives that people are adding that I kind of fundamentally disagree with is the increased caffeine content, because that has to be added artificially. So now you're adding a chemical to it. And a lot of times the companies that do that, they use low quality coffee, they roast it super dark, which the darker it gets, the I don't know, the I feel like it's just not as good. You lose the taste. And I don't know, regular coffee has enough caffeine in it for me that I feel like it allows me to just keep drinking more coffee all day. So yeah, we don't, nothing along those lines, but that's a great question. Yeah.
Er sagte gerade, also es gibt jetzt kein Produkt speziell, was die Zielgruppe genau anspricht. Das ist genau für Veganer, das ist genau für diese Zielgruppe. Er sagte aber, ein Großteil der Produkte, die anbieten, ist zum Beispiel organisch. Das ist ihnen sehr, sehr wichtig, weil als ein Beispiel Koffein wird künstlich durch irgendwelche Chemikalien in herkömmlichen, Supermarktkaffee hinzugefügt. Es ist dann auch nicht wirklich gesund. Und es gibt dann auch weitere Aspekte, wo er nicht wirklich mit eingeht. Und daher mag er es selber, wenn es alles, natürlich und organisch ist, genauso wie das Produkt. Und es passt halt auch zu ihm, zu seinem Lebensstil und das, was er verkörpert, ohne das direkt halt groß zu claimen zu müssen, hey, dieses Produkt ist ganz speziell nur für, sage ich jetzt mal, für diese Zielgruppe. And I want to know, do you maybe remember your best coffee when you played in Europe?
Oh, yeah. Well, let's
Starbucks is not counting.
No. Yeah, you got to give props to Starbucks for being the OGs. But let's see, in Europe, wow. One of my favorite coffee shops was a place in Kreuzberg in Berlin called Bakomi. And man, I think that was the first time I really had a European cappuccino, And before that, it's like we had the American bastard versions of it, And I remember just being like, like my eyes lit up, so yeah, that definitely stands out to me as one of my favorite coffee shops and coffee moments in Europe, for sure.
Do you plan maybe, I don't want to say to open a coffee store or something like that in New York or something like that, but do you have, besides UK and US, some kind of, let me say, distribution place where people from mainland Europe can order it in the near future? Or is it like you say, hey, I just want to look in UK how people how it's developing there, and US? Is there something like that planned?
I think that's been part of the plan. Unfortunately, with COVID and supply chains, so part of the problem has been, trying to find someone who has the standard of quality that I expect. It's really to make a long story longer. I met with a guy who owned a coffee shop in Taiwan, and it was my favorite coffee shop anywhere. And I said, like, well, hey, like maybe have you ever thought of franchising out and doing other locations? And he said, no. And I was like, really? And he said, yeah. Because, I read the books from Howard Schultz, the owner of Starbucks, and his ambition. And he wanted to have 100 coffee shops in 50 states in 5 years or something. It was crazy, his ambition. And he did it. But what this guy said to me, and this just struck, I loved this, and it was another aha type moment for me as a business owner. He said, you see that car out there? And it was like I don't remember what it was, brand new car, really nice. I said, yeah, it's awesome. He says, yeah, it's cool. He said, you see that motorcycle there? I said, yeah, it was a Triumph Bonneville, brand new, really nice. And he's like, look around the shop. It's an awesome shop, right? I said, yeah. He said, I make enough money to send my kids to private school. I got a motorcycle. I got a nice car. I got a great shop. The minute I start to franchise out, I will have to compromise the quality. He said, have you ever had a bad cup of coffee in my shop? I said, absolutely never. He said, that's what's important to me. And that's also what's important to me too. So we've had a hard time finding a roaster in Germany that I feel lives up to the standards and the quality that I would expect and would be comfortable giving to people. So I'd rather just not do it. But we're looking, man. We want to find him. Yeah. We hope he's out there. And when we can find this son of a bitch, then we'll have Catfight in Germany and in Europe.
Ich habe ihn zuerst noch zuvor gefragt, ob er jemals schon mal einen richtig guten Kaffee getrunken hat in Europa und wo das war. Er sagte ja, in Berlin-Kreuzberg. Den Laden kannte ich jetzt nicht, habe ich auch ehrlich gesagt an dieser Stelle vergessen, müsste nochmal zurückspulen. Nichtsdestotrotz fragte ich ihn, ob es vielleicht Überlegungen gibt, vielleicht einen eigenen Kaffee-Store zu eröffnen oder auch einen Vertrieb in Europa oder Mainland Europe oder Deutschland zu veröffentlichen, weil aktuell ist es so, wenn ihr Kaffee bestellen wollt, gibt es das nur online auf der UK-Webseite oder auf der US-Webseite. Und er sagt, ja, das ist in Planung. Der schwierigste Punkt ist jedoch, jemanden zu finden, der eine Qualität von seinem Kaffee genauso herstellt, so wie er es haben will. Er hat nämlich als Beispiel genannt, unter anderem den Starbucks-Gründer, weil es nun mal so ist, der Kaffee, der hat immer eine sehr, sehr hohe Qualität und hat ihn gefragt, hast du jemand schon mal irgendwo einen schlechten Kaffee getrunken? Bei uns sagte er, nein. Und sagte, genau das ist es. Wenn die Leute nämlich einmal merken, dass der Kaffee nicht genauso schmeckt, wie er es eigentlich sollte, hat er dementsprechend ein Imageproblem. Das möchte er umgehen, aber man arbeitet gerade daran, genau die richtige Person zu finden, die dann den Kaffee herstellt. And Acey, I want to talk a little bit about your merchandise. It's very creative, and I saw also you have a YouTube channel where you discuss the logo design, your different designers, for instance. And when you come someday on tour, is it like that the fans can also buy the merch on the merch booth or only on the online store?
In the past, the way that I did it was that it was a meet and greet. So if I would be on tour, there would be a meet and greet where we would do a private meet and greet. I would make a pot of coffee for whomever was there, and we would sit down and enjoy a cup of coffee together. The problem has been, when I've done, like if I'm on tour with Dope, right? With touring with Dope, it's like those levels of bands, there's almost like 3 headliners in a way. So it was like Static X and Devil Driver and Dope. And there's just only so much space for merchandise there. So I prefer to be the funnel, so to speak. I prefer to be the conduit where it's like, come through Catfight Coffee or come through my socials, and I'll arrange so that we can have that experience together. I'd love to be able to have like a little section of a merch booth where it's like, hi, this is my Catfight Coffee here. But usually there's just not enough space for it, unfortunately. And then the flip side to it is when I play with the Misfits or when I play with Till Lindemann, they're such big venues that it's like, wow, where do you even begin, you know? And on top of that too, I got to play. So, so I have to be focused on the job at hand. So.
Ich habe ihn gefragt, ob es vielleicht auch eine Möglichkeit gibt, wenn er auf Tour kommt, dort sein, sag ich mal, Merchandise anzubieten oder sein Kaffee. Und er sagte, ja, gibt es in der Regel bei einer Band, sag ich mal, wie Dope hat das gemacht. Das ist halt alles noch relativ klein und übersichtlich, dass es normalerweise so war. Die Leute haben ihn kontaktiert, es gab ein Meet and Greet, man hat Kaffee getrunken. Jedoch in den größeren Bands, wo er spielt, die in Arenen stellenweise auftreten, ist es das unmöglich, wo er auch sagt, ja, wo fängt man da als Beispiel an? And yeah, what I want to do now is to switch a little bit our conversation. What you mentioned is very interesting when it comes to creating an own business and playing in bands which are on a level like Dope, because what I found interesting is the concept of Dope. I don't know if it was like in the beginning, but what I found out during the last decade, it's like what Etzel was talking about when I did an interview with him a couple of years ago, that Etzel is the main character of the band Dope, and when he is on tour, he is offering like different slots for drums, bass, guitar. He has a pool of musicians from the past. They're sending out different offers, and then they can agree, disagree. It's depending on their schedule. And he said this based on this because on the one hand, there's not enough money in general in the music business. And the second part is like, for instance, you as a good example, you said what you are doing, you have a business to run, you know, which spend a lot of time, a lot of energy. So you don't have not necessarily the time to, let me say, go on tour in December, when December is the period of, I don't know, a special campaign about Christmas and Christmas coffee. It's just an example. And do you remember also when this whole thing changed, when you also changed your direction of, all right, somehow I can't always be on the tour, and also the bands in which I played in the past, it's also a little bit changing. I have to do, I don't know, play in different bands or creating a side project. Was it a specific point? Do you remember that?
Well, yes, I guess when, I mean, one thing that people tend to not realize that's really a weird dynamic about being a musician on tour, you end up with a lot of downtime. So the old saying in the music business is hurry up and wait, hurry up and wait, hurry up and wait. So for us, the one thing that we always see is that when I'm on tour, we definitely see it benefit Catfight Coffee. So, and I'm lucky that my wife is such a hard worker, and, you know, we pick up each other's slack, you know what I mean? So I'm very lucky that my business partner sees that, like, okay, it benefits Catfight for you to be on tour. We see the numbers go up, we see things go up. So while you do that, she has to work harder at doing the shipping and stuff like that. So, one always benefits the other, you know what I mean? So I haven't had a thing where that's happened yet. And the other point I wanted to make is that a lot of the work that I do with Catfight, I can do while I'm on a laptop in Israel, or when I'm on a laptop in Cleveland, or when I'm in a laptop in anywhere in the world. So, you know, I have the strong foundation of my wife, who does all the, you know, holds down the fort here, and then I can be remote and do do the work that I need to do. Plus then, I get to do things like give coffee to the musicians that we're touring with, and then they'll post about it, or, talk to fans afterwards. I've always been very, very approachable with my fans. So I always make sure I have like coupons for the fans at the merch booth and hang out there. So one always helps the other.
Ich habe darauf angesprochen, weil es nun mal so ist bei Bands wie Dope, da hat sich natürlich eine Menge verändert. Normalerweise ist es so, es gibt halt eine Person, die dann quasi die ganze Band managt, und im Laufe der Jahre, gerade bei dem Thema Musikkrise von 2007, ist es so, dass sich andere Musiker andere Bands gesucht haben oder keine Lust hatten oder halt wie Acey halt ein Business aufgebaut haben und dann auch nicht mehr Zeit hatten für Musik. Und wie es dann dazu gekommen ist, ob es einen speziellen Punkt gab, dass er gesagt hat, hey, ich möchte noch neben der Musik etwas anderes machen. Und er sagte, ja, es ist nun mal so, es gibt dann sozusagen ein Schlagwort, ein sogenanntes Saying in Englisch, wo er dann sagte, ja, du musst dann quasi, weiß ich nicht, eine Stunde am Tag oder 2 Stunden am Tag Musik spielen, hast dann ganz, ganz viel Zeit. Und was machst du da? Und er hat sich dann halt dafür entschlossen zu sagen, okay, ich mache halt, starte ein Business. Und das Gute ist, so wie die Arbeitsteilung ist zwischen ihm und seiner Frau, es erlaubt ihn, auf Tour zu gehen, es erlaubt ihn, die Arbeit vom Laptop aus zu machen. Es ist dabei egal, ob er in Israel ist oder irgendwo in Cleveland sitzt, sondern er hat dafür Zeit und kann das halt bearbeiten. Und das Gute ist, wovon das Business profitiert aufgrund der Zielgruppe, aufgrund da, wo der Kaffee angesiedelt ist im Bereich Musik und Metal, kann er den Musikern immer was geben, von der Show oder während einer Show oder nach der Show oder zum Frühstück, die darüber berichten, die darüber posten. Und so ist das etwas, ja, eine Win-Win-Situation für beide Parteien. And yeah, we are finally done with the interview. And my last question is, which business advice would you give to a band which is coming up and want to tour the world, or at least want to record and to say, hey, music is our first priority? Which advice would you give them, from a musician standpoint, but also someone who is running a business to keep everything in balance?
I think the one mistake that I see a lot of bands making is not running their band like it's a business. And what I mean by that is that, like, you have to set up email lists. You can't take for granted. Wow, it's such a big question. I guess the first step is that, and it's one thing I'm very lucky that I learned this from Etzel. Getting a record deal is not when the work ends. And that's one mistake I see a lot of bands make is that, okay, you work so hard, you're working your ass off, you're doing your thing, you get a record deal, and they think, all right, now it's time to party. The record company's going to do everything. We never had that attitude in Dope. We always had the attitude of like, okay, now's really when the hard work begins. Do you know what I mean? It's a little bit like if you were a football team and saying like, all right, we made it to the Super Bowl. It's like, yeah, but guess what? You still got to play that other team. So you still got to work hard. You still need to keep working hard. So that's the first part. The second part too is realizing that it's all about exploiting the opportunity that's in front of you. One of the things I realized years ago was like, okay, everything that's going on with the major label record company, who is it benefiting, right? And you think it's benefiting you because you're getting likes on Instagram, or you're getting to see the world, you're getting free guitars, you're getting all this. But then after a while, you realize like, yeah, but I'm not ending up with a lot of money in my bank account. Mm-hmm. And the guy who produced the record, he's driving a brand new Porsche. And the guy it's like all the people on the outside circle are the ones benefiting from you in a way. So you have to be aware of that. And then you have to realize like, so how can I benefit from this? It's funny when I tour with a smaller band like Dope, the good thing is that, if the tour gets canceled, that doesn't affect me at all. It affects Etzel, and that sucks for him. But the good thing is that it's like, all right, cool. Well, sorry, dude. Like, I know that you spent the money on making merch and all those things that you have to do. But then the flip side of that is when I'll never forget, playing with Joan Jett, where it was like, all right, we don't have to worry about who's coming to see us anymore. I used to look behind the curtain and be like, did anybody show up? Well, when you play with these bigger bands, you don't got to worry about any of that at all. And then you look at it again and you're like, well, hold a second. We don't got to worry about that. Who's making all the money? Like, I mean, I get paid well, but not sustainably, you know? So I think that it all comes down to looking at everything as an opportunity. You know, again, back to dope. Sony, when we were signed to Sony, they spent the same amount of money on us that they spent on Mariah Carey that year, right? And then and they were never going to get that money back. That was stupid of them. That was so dumb. Like, we're a band called Dope with a single called Everything Sucks is not going to sell the same as Mariah Carey. It's just not. That was a big mistake on their part. And when we got dropped, you know, it's very ego deflating. And at first you have this attitude of, we're dropped, we're damaged goods. There's nothing there. It failed, you know. Then you realize real quick, hold on a second. There was $4 million in marketing spent on this. Why let that go to waste? You know, how can I exploit that? So it's always thinking about, you know, how you can benefit from things that on the surface may not seem like they benefit you.
Ich habe ihm die letzte Frage gestellt, wenn er Bands einen Ratschlag geben könnte, die gerade neu sind, die voll durchstarten möchten mit einer Platte, mit einer Tour, welche, ja, was er da gerne denen sagen möchte, einmal aus der Sicht von einem jemanden, der ein Geschäft leitet, aber auch jemand, der Musiker ist. Und er sagte als erstes oder Hauptgrund ist der, man muss die Band betrachten wie ein eigenes Business, wie ein eigenes Geschäft, weil es da sehr, sehr viele Möglichkeiten gibt, Geld zu verdienen. Und die Chancen, die einen ja sich ermöglichen, sollte man sich genauestens angucken. Sei es als ein Beispiel, wenn man einen Vertrag unterschreibt, dass es da nicht mit getan ist, dass das erreicht ist, sondern man muss es auch dann voll ausnutzen. Und ein weiterer Punkt, was er sagte, ist halt, wenn es gerade bei Sachen kommt, wie wenn man auf einem Label ist, ja, was die einen zahlen, wie kann man noch davon profitieren, was er sagte, ist, als er in Dope war. Und Dope waren damals bei Sony, die haben das gleiche Budget für Dope wie für Mariah Carey aufgebracht. Und natürlich eine Band, die Dope sich nennt, einen Song rausbringt wie Everything Sucks, hat natürlich nicht den Erfolg wie Mariah Carey. Nichtsdestotrotz gab es da verschiedene Möglichkeiten, wie $4 Millionen beim Thema Marketing, wie das die Band selber nutzen kann und verwerten kann. Das sind diese zwei Punkte, ja, die er gerne den Bands mitgeben möchte. So, Acey, thank you very much for the time for the interview. It was very interesting. And the last thing is, where can people buy Catfight Coffee? Maybe you want to say this. I will put everything down in the description where people can order Catfight Coffee.
Yeah, right at catfightcoffee.com. And I know that the shipping rates to Deutschland are not the best, but we only charge what USPS or DHL or UPS charge. We have a great back end to the website where we find the cheapest shipping rate that we can get with the best shippers. And we don't charge anything on the back end of that. So unfortunately, if you see a high rate, it's not us charging that, it's them. So that's the bummer to it, but you're going to get some awesome coffee, I promise you. And, you know, we do some great stuff with Alice Cooper. We're doing stuff with some more bands, and all the merch that we do with the bands is all exclusive to us. You can't get it anywhere else. So it's cool stuff.
Also ihr habt es gehört, schaut mal unten in der Beschreibung nach, da gibt es exklusives Merchandise, wie unter anderem mit Alice Cooper, eine sehr, sehr interessante Kooperation. Er sagt natürlich auch und entschuldigt sich dafür, dass die Shipping Rates relativ hoch sind, aber da kann leider nicht das Unternehmen etwas dran ändern, weil das liegt dann an UPS, DHL, je nachdem, was hier oder welche Versandart die er da wählt. Was er dafür garantieren kann, ist einen super leckeren Kaffee, den er bekommt. And I will now, after the interview, I will order a coffee, because we got an own category. It's called Vinylstube. It's called, I don't know how can I translate it. Basically, it's a category on YouTube where me and a friend talking about vinyl records, and we're sitting on a sofa. It looks very comfortable, and we also drink sometimes coffee, and for this would be perfect product, of course, to taste your coffee. And for this I will also order a portion of your coffee. And Acey, again, thank you very much for the time for the interview. I hope we will see us someday here in Europe when this whole COVID thing is over, and then we will drink a cup of coffee together.
Well, let's hope Wacken happens this year.
There.
If Wacken happens, I think I'll probably play with Till. I think he's playing on Thursday, and then I think Dope is going to play Friday or Saturday. So I might play with two bands.
Oh, great! Because I saw Dope 2.5 years ago, but I think there was not you on the tour. There was Virus, Little Dan,
Yeah.
Etzel,
Yeah.
and yeah, would be great to see you with Dope, and or also Lindemann. We will see on Wacken Festival. Definitely.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, and I'm going to throw in some extra goodies when I see your order come through too.
Oh,
so thank you very much, Pat. Take care.
Take
Cheers.
care. Have a nice day. Bye.
Moshpit Passion, for the passion of music.